Come on, everybody. We got a really good one tonight. Good evening, everybody. Welcome in. Can you guys hear me okay? If somebody could put a yes or no in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. Oops. Let's make sure my. Hi, Lalo. Thank you, Lalo. How are you? Hello, Mr. Breaking News, my BFF. How are you tonight? I'm so happy to see everybody. Gonna have a really good live tonight, so please share it out. If you're not following me, please follow your host. And I have a really special guest coming in tonight. Hey, Curious.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm waiting for more people to come in, but I'm just so glad you're here.
I'm good. I'm I'm glad to be here.
Okay, and you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. I'm going to put you on mute for now. Let's give
Okay.
it just 3 to 4 minutes and we'll get started. Okay, guys, let's keep going. Keep sharing out that live. Fran, did you request to come in my box? You have to follow me first in order to do that, hon, and join my team. There's 154 of you in here right now. I am so excited. We have a very, very special live for you all tonight. It's going to be amazing. I have Curiously Anonymous here, and Curiously Anonymous, I'm actually going to let her tell you all her story because it is going to change the way you think about the Jon Benet case. Thank you, Bubble. You're such a sweetheart, honey. Um, I know I'm really excited too, Mr. Breaking News. So without further ado, meet Curiously Anonymous. There are some rules I do want to go over for this live. Curiously Anonymous is anonymous for a reason. She is female. She did let me know that I can disclose that, so that's fine. But we are not to ask Curiously Anonymous what her name is, where her location is, what her past history is, what her qualifications are. We're normal people in this room telling a story, and we're going to treat our guest with all the respect that she deserves. So, without further ado, welcome Curiously Anonymous. Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Well, it
So,
all kind of sorry.
let's start from the beginning. What I'll do is I'll ask you some of the fact-finding stuff that I think the audience should know, but you can elaborate whenever you want. And you can also tell me to shush and let you finish talking. Hi, Rosalie.
Okay.
So, all right. So, I guess the first question I really want to ask you, Curious, is can you please tell everybody in the room how you acquired the book by Patsy Ramsey, which is in the screen behind me?
It was bought for me as an early Christmas gift, ordered on November 3rd through a secondhand seller on eBay, and I received that book on November 9th.
Okay. And when you received the book, how long did it take before you started opening up and pouring into those pages?
I immediately opened it up. And the first thing I found, I always look for signatures on books when you buy them secondhand. You
Hey,
just never
geez,
know.
thank you. Gotcha.
And I saw there was a little scribbles behind the front dust cover fold, and I thought, oh wow, there's no name or anything, and curiosity got the best of me. I thought maybe this is John's handwriting, maybe this is Patsy's, and I looked up both, and was not it was not similar at all. So I typed in what it said to Google, and I found that it was a quote from
To
1991
break it.
Cape Fear.
I'm gonna bring that up for you. I went in and trolled your page a little bit. I took some pictures.
That's fine with me.
Okay, so can you please go over the actual relevance to the movie Cape Fear
I
and
didn't
the
find
signature in this book?
I did not find any relevance right off the bat. I had not watched Cape Fear. It wasn't until November 17th, which was 8 days later, that I found out that other people had already discovered these crime thriller movies in the ransom note. And then I was like, that's weird. I have a movie quote in my book. I wonder if it's the same movie because, like I said, I had not watched that movie, so it didn't carry anything in my mind. So I
Right.
go back to the book, look it back up. I find that it's Cape Fear again, and I type it into Amazon, and I'm like, that's crazy. The first thing that it says is a psycho, Robert De Niro, preys on a Southern couple and their daughter. And that was oddly similar to all the movies I had written down from the ransom note. So I was like, I have to watch this movie. At that point, I was sick to my stomach.
Okay, let me stop you there for 1 second. The topic tonight is we have Curiously Anonymous on my live. Curiously Anonymous came across some accidental information that may be pertinent to the Jon Benet case. I do ask that everybody do not hound her in the chat, do not ask her name, do not ask her location, and just let her keep telling her story. So tell me about the point where you started putting two and two together with that signature and what you found on the internet.
Immediately, once I
Thank you.
typed in Cape Fear and I watched it that was immediate for me. I contacted Boulder Police um, through email. I received an automated email back, and after that, it's been a chase.
Got you. And Boulder Police, do they now have possession of the book?
They never took possession of the book. Um, and the reason being is because it's really a smart tactic if you think about it.
Hey,
Um,
legal, legal.
the book is not it's not traceable. We can't track the book. We have no idea where all the book has been, whose all hands it's been in, and we'll never be able to get that information. It had a Goodwill sticker on it, and we ordered it from eBay, so we're never gonna know where all it's actually been.
Have you contacted the seller on eBay to find out
I
where they
did.
had located the book?
I did try to contact the seller, and they did not say anything other than, "I'm so sorry, that it had that in there, and here's a refund."
Yep.
That was pretty much it. But
Wow.
Boulder Police did add the pictures in my statement to the case file and said, at some point, they didn't know when because they get so many tips that, they would look over it, and if anything come of it, they might reach out to me in the future. But like I said, what could they possibly, they can't track it. So
Okay. Oh, wow. What a um big. Oh, they're asking for a recap. Okay, Christine. All right, Curiously Anonymous. I'm really sorry. I may have to ask you to do this once or twice during the live because we get people that are joining and they're like, what we're talking about. So, can you just repeat one more time how
I
you
like to
acquired
shorten
this
it by
book?
just, I like to shorten it by just saying, I think the person who unalived John Bonet signed my book with a crime thriller movie. And that about sums it up for me. Um, but I didn't know until November 17th that it was 8 days after I received the book, that there were crime thriller movies already found in the ransom note. And what was written in my book was a quote from a crime thriller movie.
Correct. There were quotes from Speed, I believe, Dirty Harry. Um, oh, they were a bunch of movies and
Ransom, Ruthless
Ransom,
People.
Ruthless People. But they were all released in like the 70s and 80s because I was a kid when those came out. So when I saw those on your
Ransom
page, I
Ransom had
remembered.
just came out and was in theaters the month before. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a newly released movie, and in order for someone to quote a movie, you're going to have to watch that movie more than once. I mean, typically.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, we're not divulging that information, Christine, right now. Sorry.
We don't know where all the book has been. To sum that up, if that's what they're asking, we don't know where all it's been, and we will probably never find out where all it's been.
So you haven't heard anything from Boulder Police since November 17th.
I stopped messaging them because I don't want to hound them with my theory. If they are going to investigate it, they're going to have their own investigation, and they're going to have much more people with better knowledge than myself. So I trust that if they do find the time to investigate it or think it's, worthy of an investigation, that they're probably going to do a better job than I can.
Have you thought about reaching out to John Ramsey yourself?
No. Um, I don't see a reason to. Who I am is it's what kind of word am I looking for? It's irrelevant to anything, of who he is and what he's going through. I'm just a normal person. I do sometimes like to think that one day he would reach out and say thank you, but that's all I would expect and hope for in the end. But like I said, I don't have any reason to talk to him. He's repeated the same things over and over and over for years. So there's nothing that he could tell me that I can't try and look for. And if there is questions that I do have for John Ramsey, I post them on my TikTok.
I did see that, and some of them were
Yeah.
amazing. First of all, for somebody who's just a normal person, um, you really need to give yourself some credit. You have amazing critical thinking skills. And
Thank
I
you.
work in a field where you have to have those skills, and your evaluations, your research. And I do have some questions about it, as much as you can tell me as much as you know. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer them all, but your research has been phenomenal. Probably the best I've seen on TikTok. So that was also why I was really, really hoping to get you on Talking with JoJo, because I do get a good amount of people in my room. And I wanted people to be able to not only see your platform, but see the integrity in it and the way you have professionally presented evidence that I think really means something. One of the things that you've done that really interests me as a true crime creator myself is you have managed to make a connection, a possible connection, I should say, between Patsy having some kind of a role in this. And it's not the kind of role that anybody would expect. Yes, Kimberly, she's amazing. Um, it's not a
Thank
role
you.
that anybody would expect. I always thought there was some tie based on the ransom note. And when you started talking about in your videos the pageants that Patsy was in, I mean, she was what, Miss West Virginia at some point, Anonymous? Do I have it right?
Yes, 1977.
Okay. So that to me kind of links some of what the public's thinking, but not the way they're thinking it. So let's see, what
Right.
does the book she found has to do with the mom? It's actually the mom's book. It was Patsy's book that she wrote, right?
It was written by John and Patsy
John and
Ramsey. Yes.
Patsy Ramsey. Yes. So it's a book that she ordered, Christine. That was thank you, buffering. Yes, please follow her. She's amazing. Thanks, Mr. Breaking News. Um, what you have put together is, oh, Rosalie, thank you so much, sweetheart. What you have put together is just amazing to me. I wanted to talk to you about some of the letters that Patsy received. I've never seen anything like those. How did you come across those? Did you just do like a Google engine search and find this stuff? Or was
Um,
this, and if you
I
can't say,
have
you can't say, it's fine.
no, I have to give credit where credit is due. I am not I never even knew what a web sleuth was, to be frank with it. But there were other web sleuths that were on top of this case, Jameson 245 being one of them from the
Yep,
very beginning.
yep,
And I did
yep.
not know that. But I would go to these websites, or I would go to Google, I would type things in, and a lot of what would pop up would be Reddit. It would be a
Mm-hmm.
candyrose.com, and it would be Jameson's website. And they already pieced together so much of this and lay out the evidence for you to just look at it. And put it to you this way, I have not gone over everything. Every day I find something new. So there's still a lot for me to even go over.
Mm-hmm. And in your looking at that, your theory with Patsy, is it strengthening that theory?
Oh, yes. Which you know, I went back and forth a little bit on Jon because of, so many things. And I try and look at everybody's theories and take everything, even from, what I don't believe in. I try and take it all into consideration. So even I went back
Mm-hmm.
and forth a little bit. But Patsy, she just wasn't sticking out to me like that. And I didn't realize um, where these crime thriller movies were until January 7th, when I found the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And that was what just put the put the icing on the cake for me. I was trying to look for what I was trying to say, but that put the icing on the cake for me, that I knew Patsy did not, for sure.
Oh, you mean the nanny, right? Wasn't Jean Brodie the nanny? I read a statement you had on your
Um,
page.
Miss Jean Brodie, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, was a movie, and that movie sticks out from all the others. See,
Oh, I
when
didn't
people
even
talk
know
about
that. Okay.
yes, when people talk about the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, they bring up the fact that Patsy reenacted the play when she was doing Miss West Virginia. But they don't put it in lineup with the other crime thriller movies that we already know inspired the crime. And if you put these movies together, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie is not about a kidnapping and an unaliving and a big crime like that. I didn't even finish the entire movie when I realized I got about 75% of the way, and I was like, "Oh my goodness." And so after that, I don't know how to explain it, but like I said, that one
You're doing
movie is
fine.
off from the others.
I've
And
never
the
seen
only
that movie.
reason
Now I gotta go watch it because I've
Right.
never
And
seen
you
it.
should watch every single movie that is, if it's confirmed, if it's speculated, um, you should watch all of them. I think everybody should, and I think everybody shouldn't stop talking about the case. Do your own research, do your own digging, make your own conclusion. But like I said to my fiance, I could probably find something new every day for the next year. I would not be surprised, because there's so much information out there. One of them being, I spoke with Jameson and I told her my thoughts, and Jameson said to me, the only thing that I can really tell you to do is read the court text from Wolf versus Ramsey. And so that's what I've been trying to do the last 2 days. Um, and so I
Okay.
don't have a lot going on my TikTok right now, other than I'm going over those court documents. And even those court documents can tell you there's no one confirming Patsy is the writer of the ransom note. I don't believe that she was. I believe that they took
I don't
inspiration
either.
from the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, where Miss Jean Brodie's students, a group of girls, they were called Brodie's girls, had written a note, like a love note, and signed it as Miss Jean Brodie, and she was accused of writing that note, but she didn't. And I think that's what we have here with Patsy. They tried to copy Patsy's handwriting. We know that they had her Christmas letters. We know that they knew what staircase she came down from. They knew certain details about her. So
Yep.
I think that they took that and twisted it against her.
Yep. Now, in your research, I also saw a 3-page letter from a Larry somebody. Do I have that right? To
Mm,
Patsy that you posted.
that was Donald Foster. There
Donald
was
Foster, yes.
a letter from Donald Foster to Patsy Ramsey. Um, and
Thank you, Sari.
he's very interesting. I will say that he's very interesting. Jameson 245, the web sleuth, also had encounters with Donald Foster. She has a whole page on Donald Foster.
I love websuits. I'm gonna have to go on and check this out myself because I use websuits a lot. I used it a lot when I was working on the Long Island serial unaliver case before they arrested the person that is being accused. So I've used websuits a lot. Hey, Brandy. Hey, Bobby. Hi, everybody. Everybody coming in the room, please follow your host if you're not following me already. My name is JoJo, and this is Talking with JoJo, where we go over what's really going on. And tonight we have an amazing woman by the name of Curiously Anonymous, and that is what we call her. That is what she goes by. And I appreciate everybody's respect in not asking any personal questions to her. Curiously Anonymous received a book that was written by Patsy and Jon Ramsey. And in that book was some handwriting, which was matched up to the movie Cape Fear. And anybody that has studied the Jon Benet Ramsey case over the years is well aware of the fact that the ransom note contained references to many different movies. So, at some point, I'm going to have Curiously Anonymous put something in the chat. I'm going to pin her up because you all need to be following her. She's onto something big, I think. So I will let you continue, Curious. Hey, Kathy.
If you don't mind, I would like to go over some things that I read in the Wolf versus Ramsey court text
I would
today.
love that.
Um, Mrs. Wong, if you remember Sina Wong, um, she talked about Patsy's handwriting comparing to the ransom note.
Hmm.
Mrs. Wong lacked necessary credentials to qualify as experts. Wong is not qualified to provide expert testimony. Wong has never taken a certification exam, never completed an accreditation course in document examination, been an apprentice to an ABFDE certified document examiner, or worked in crime lab. They did allow Epstein to talk. Epstein acknowledges the importance of consulting original documents in an
Hey,
article
Skin.
he co-authored in 1971, Identification News, a publication of the International Association for Identification. Epstein did not consult original documents. Epstein tried to say that he believed it was Patsy Ramsey 100% without a doubt, but he did not consult the original documents, and he co-authored an a 1971 Identification News publication where he said the examiner is being deprived of one of the most important elements of scientific examination, the study of line quality of the writing, attempt to obtain the original whenever possible. He never sought out a motion to obtain the original copies. Epstein
Wow.
failed to show support for his claims. So he was also pretty much dismissed. But they said, yeah, we would take consideration of an expert if they were able to provide us proof of their findings. But he did not do that. He failed to do that. And Sina Wong didn't have the credentials. So, therefore, anyone
Wow.
who's saying Patsy's handwriting is a match, they are not correct. That has not been proven. And I think, like Jameson said, the best thing that we can do is go over the Wolf versus Ramsey court text to get a better understanding of things because that's as close as we're going to be able to get.
I think you're so on point. I don't disagree with you like at all. That's why I'm such a fan because I'm like, oh my God, somebody has been able to piece together. Like, I couldn't piece it together myself, but I always had this gut feeling that there was an involvement with one of the parents, but not the way everybody was thinking. And you're
Right.
like verifying my gut feeling. So I was like so excited.
Yes, if you watch these movies and you follow the path of movies, and what I mean by that is even if you find something on Reddit, let's say, like I did, where somebody speculated or they found a similarity with another movie, you should also watch that movie. Because I did find some of that where other people connected things. Like there is supposedly a piece of evidence. I haven't found it in the court documents yet, and I don't know for sure if I will, because there's some things they didn't give us. But there is speculation on a piece of evidence that was found at the scene. They talk about it, but they don't show us a picture of it. And people connected it to the movie Ricochet. So go watch Ricochet. And
I've
then
seen
watch The
Ricochet. It's
Crime
been
of
many
Miss Jean
years though.
Brodie.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had
That
never
one
seen
I've never
any of
seen it.
these.
I was a kid. I mean, like maybe in my mid to late teens, because she passed in 96. I think I was about maybe 23, 24 at the time. And when you started listing all those movies, I'm like, oh my God, my dad was a fan of like most of these. So I remember them on in my household as a kid. And, you know, it's just, it's so amazing. I just can't believe you're not getting more feedback from Boulder PD. I'm just like, well, I guess I
What
should
can
not
they
believe
can't
it.
give me anything. They can't tell me anything. Like I said, I'm just a regular, normal, whatever you want to call me type person. They're not going to call me up and be like, hey, we found something. Just wanted to let you know. I wish that they could. That would be great. They could probably help me. I could help them, but I don't hold any credentials either. So to them, I am no one other than someone who reported a tip, and I'm okay with that. I saw something, I said something, I did my part.
Oh, you absolutely did the right thing. There's no doubt about that, Curious. No doubt. You know what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about? I know that no, she has not, Sharon. She has not spoken to John Ramsey. I asked her that question earlier. Yes, it is, Iceman. It's a very intriguing case. Absolutely. That's why I keep doing lives on it because when I find new information, I want to get it out there to everybody. What I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was, and I think you know I'm a fan of him, Lou Smith.
Yes.
You did post a couple of, and I'm actually going to download that audiobook and listen to it because I didn't know it was out there. So I'm definitely going to download it myself and listen to it. How were you able to equate your findings with some of his theories?
So I recently found out that Lou Smith had previously talked about these crime thriller movies. And he had also said this person was inspired by these movies. So he already confirmed that. And Lou Smith's daughter Cindy and John Anderson, I did talk to them both. They both said they trust in their dad's work. He did all the investigating already. So they're not interested in investigating the case any further, and I don't blame them. It's been very repetitive for a long amount of years. They're banking on the DNA. But like I said, Lou Smith already said these films inspired him. So, but I don't think that Lou Smith took into consideration that the prime of Miss Jean, but he might have. I don't know. I don't have his work, unfortunately. But
Right, right,
um,
yeah.
did he? I wonder, and I would love to know, did he take into consideration that the prime of Miss Jean Brodie was also inspiration?
Yep, absolutely. And it's a shame because I know that his children, I just saw them recently on a documentary and they said they were still continuing his work. So it's kind of disappointing to me that they didn't go with this lead because this could lead them to one of the apparent 700 names that Lou had given them before he passed.
Right. Well, Jameson, she had talked to Lou Smith before his passing. I guess they became friends, from my understanding. And she theorizes, and she found that they were also inspired by real cases. So not just crime thriller movies, but real cases with ransom notes. And she found
Mhm.
similarities in ransom notes from other cases. And I would say that her and Lou Smith and others around the case already know that they already knew they were inspired by movies. They already know they were intelligent. They were knowledgeable in literature and things like that. So I would say they probably are already on top of it. I can't give you who did it. Unfortunately, I will probably never be able to do that.
I don't
Um,
really even, I didn't have that expectation coming from you. Some people are asking
no.
in the chat, does she know who did it? No, she
No,
doesn't,
I
but
wish
she's,
I did. Wouldn't that
but
be crazy?
oh my God, absolutely. But like, you know, I think what needs to happen is, hey, King, thank you. And thank you everybody for the roses and the gifts and the heart me's. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying thank you quick enough. I'm just, I love talking to Curious. I can't help myself. But thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Please keep tapping the screen. Please keep sharing out the live. I appreciate you all for being here and for sticking with us. There's still over 66 of you in the room. Let's get me to 25,000. Let's do this. Okay, Curious. So, you feel with Lou, it's there's not really going to be oh, it's still the talk. Huh, Mr. Breaking News? That doesn't surprise me. You know, Mr. Have you been on my page at all lately? Curious? Did you see what Mr.
I
Breaking News
did
sent me?
see, I did see that, and I liked that.
He's an amazing guy. He really, really is. I was so touched. He was in a live that I did. You might have even been in it a couple of weeks ago, and he promised me he was going to get there, and I forgot about it, but he didn't.
Oh,
True
that is
friendship
very
right
sweet.
there. Yeah, yeah, I
Yes.
really appreciated it. Okay, so we talked about Lou. There's other questions I want to ask you. Have you been watching, and forgive me for being sarcastic, Vinnie Politan?
Have I been watching what?
Vinnie Politan, Court
Um,
TV.
yes, I did watch some of Court TV. Yes, I didn't know what
You
his
got to
name
put
was,
your
so that's
resume
why I
there.
didn't recognize that. But yes, I did watch Court TV, where he went over Gary Oliva.
Yes,
Yes, I
and you.
watched it, and I don't think Gary Oliva did it. I really, truly don't. I think that he may know something that he's not willing to give up because he says, "I'm not. I don't know. I'm not them." Um, but that would be about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if he did it either. I watched some of it and I'm going, what the heck is Mr. What the heck is Vinnie Politan even trying to say?
I
I was
have
like,
no idea. I didn't
where
understand the
is
point of that.
he drives
Other
me
than
crazy.
some people think that everyone who's already been tested needs to be retested. I don't talk very much about the DNA because I have a hard time understanding it and I'm trying to learn about it as best as I can. Um, but, I don't, this is what I say about it. If it wasn't such a big deal, they would not be wasting their time on it. All of their time, their money, they would not be chasing it like this if they
Hmm.
didn't think that it was serious enough.
Yeah,
So to
absolutely.
me, it's serious.
Christine wants to know, what do you not understand about the DNA? Well, DNA in itself is a very, very complicated science. I'm going to try and answer that one for you. Um, the DNA that they're looking to test right now is a new form of testing that they can actually separate the DNA that was found on some of the um, the clothing, and there's a rope, and the garrote, and there's some DNA, but it's mixed in with Joan Benet's. With intergenealogy DNA, they have a scientific method of separating her DNA from that mysterious DNA and trying to get a match that way.
Thank
Is that
you.
You're welcome. I've done a lot of with the Long Island cereal and whatever, it's all about DNA in that case. So I've done some DNA research lately. So the whole thing that John Ramsey has been advocating for is this intergenealogy DNA. Um, it's like I said, because it's a new form, he has been advocating very strongly. He's been on every podcast he could be on. They did the documentary series on Netflix. He's been on News Nation numerous times. He's been on Law and Crime. He's back on Vinnie Politan. So he is really advocating and pushing for this. But I wish he knew about this signature, because I think he would really push to look at that as well.
If there might be a possibility that he does know, because I know that John Anderson and Cindy talked about it amongst each other. Um, and now I know that Jameson knows about it. So I guess there is a possibility that he may already know. Um, but like I said, to some people, they're going to, completely throw it out because we're not going to be able to track it. I personally think, you may not be able to track it, but what if you were able to get copies or, find the people on your suspect list handwriting and compare it to the handwriting that I have?
Right.
What if that might just be it? You'd never know. I don't know if they could do that. I don't know if it would. What if they did get a match? Would they be able to use it for a warrant for DNA? I don't know. Maybe they would be able to go get his DNA out of the trash can like they did in other documentaries. So, who knows? I wish that it could help. I'm not We're not guaranteed that it can help though.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sharon, people are just typing one word to keep the chat going. That helps keep me on route to the FYP. So if you're seeing one word chats, that's just my mods trying to help me get back up to the FYP. That's all. So you're not buying Vinnie Politan's investigation either. When do we buy Vinnie Politan's investigation? I don't even know why they still
I
have him
just
on sometimes. I'm
I
just like,
thought
oh
Gary
my
Oliva has been looked in so repeatedly. There wasn't really anything that he can give us that we didn't already know.
God. I think those videos, did you see the actual videos of him, Curious? He's a strange
Yes,
dude.
yes, yes.
And I really feel like he's too obvious of a suspect. He's too in our face. Like that other guy, John Mark Carr. He was another one
Yes.
that admitted he confessed, and then it turned out he wasn't a match. Like,
You know what was weird to me about John Mark Carr was not the things that he was saying about Jon Benet, but it was the things he was saying about Patsy.
yes, yes, yes,
He
he
was
was a little
very
ups
interested in
in
Patsy.
Patsy. Yep, yeah, very interested. You're right. You're right.
And
What
then when he had the
about
opportunity to meet her, he didn't.
uh, what about John's business partner? Oh, Floyd White, is that who you're talking about? I
Fleet
think he
White.
was Fleet White. Sorry, I keep calling him
It's
Floyd. If I
okay.
can't remember a name, I usually give you one.
It's okay.
It's called old age. But Fleet White. What was he
Um,
saying about Patsy? Oh, John Mark Carr. You want to answer that one, Curious?
I can't recall exactly what he was saying about Patsy. I just know that he was um very interested in her. He wanted
Yeah.
to meet her. And so they had given him the opportunity to meet Patsy and he didn't show up. If I'm remembering that correctly, he did not show up.
Yep. Yep. There are so many different avenues. Yes, there are. But the problem is, like, and I've said this to you guys, I don't know how many times, if not for that initial detective that went in that house, we probably would never be having this conversation right now. That crime
Right.
scene has made this case impossible to solve. And it's been almost 30 years. And it's not for a lack of trying. Lou Smith made it his life work, worked on it until he passed away and he had cancer. Oh, Lord. Okay, let's see. I think Jon Benet is unalivers. Oh,
Yeah, that
that's
was
you,
me.
Curious. Okay, that's you. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Okay, so this is the part of the live where I do Q&A. Who wants to come in the box and ask questions? And again, the rules are we don't ask names or locations, and we don't ask any identifying information. It's straight about the case. So let's see. Case request. Randy, you want to come in the box, or did you do that on accident, honey? Rosalie, I know you did that on accident. Christine, you want to come up? I'll invite Christine up. She usually has something she wants to
Yes, the
ask.
photographer.
Yes.
Yeah, he was very weird too.
Oops, sorry. What are you sorry for, Brandy? It was a tapping error. It's okay, Randy. No problem. I don't have any questions that I could think of at the moment. Okay, no problem. Did I? Oh, Christine, I invited you. Did you get it? Let me do it again. All right. It says it went. I conjured you up.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm editing photos right now, so I'm kind of in and out of the chat. So,
Oh, no, that's okay. It's totally fine. I just wanted to get because you usually come up, you usually have some really good questions, and I saw some stuff in the chat. I wanted to make sure we got to everybody. So while we have Curious with us, what were some of your questions about her research?
yeah, I missed the very beginning because sometimes I get an alert that you're on, and then I go on and you're not there, and then I don't get another alert to say you're actually on. So I
That's why I've
miss.
been letting you know through text.
Yeah, I know, but it's anyway. So I missed the
I don't
beginning,
know.
but I was just a little confused. So, um, curiously found a book or bought a book on eBay
Yes,
that
it was a secondhand book.
was it a printed book or a handwritten book like a diary?
It was
Printed.
it was a printed hardcover book.
And it was once owned by the parents?
No, it was written by the parents. We don't know who the owner was.
Like, and is this a published book that there's many copies of?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the significance of the book?
Go ahead, Curious. I'll let you answer that.
The significance is that someone wrote a quote from a crime thriller movie that shares many similarities with the crime thriller movies that
Hey,
were already
Kristen.
found in the ransom note from Jon Benet's case.
So a published book, you got a copy
Yes.
of it, and then it you found a connection with the ransom note in the published book?
No, it was
I'm sorry.
someone's handwriting from an ink pen. Um, it was written in ink pen. It was not printed in the book.
Oh, absolutely, Iceman. Absolutely. So, Christine, do you understand like why this is so significant?
No, I'm sorry. There was
Okay.
noise and I couldn't really hear what you said.
No, it's fine. Well, I'll
Yes.
explain it to you. So, when Jean
Explain it like
Benet
I'm 5 years old.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. I'm not,
Okay.
do you feel like that? I'm not trying to make you, I would never do that to you.
No, I just feel like I should understand this, and it's
No,
confusing.
stop.
Right.
It's fine. I'm more than happy to explain it. Okay.
Right.
So when John Benet Ramsey was initially unalived, all right, they thought it was a kidnapping, right? So there was this ransom letter. Remember I told you
Yeah,
guys
I
all
read
about
it.
like the
Yeah,
novel?
I read
Okay.
the whole thing.
In that ransom letter, there are specific references to certain movies, which curiously, Anonymous has been excellent about outlining her page. those movies, some of that ransom note are direct quotes from those movies.
And
So
nobody
when
knew this ever before?
no, this was known, but this is the part that isn't.
Okay.
The book that Curious got a hold of, it was bought for her as a gift. What a gift. She got really, really lucky. Has a script signature from a line in Cape Fear. You remember the movie Cape Fear with Robert De Niro? It came out in about early 90s, maybe 91, 92-ish.
Yeah.
So got curious because why would somebody write that in a book? And when you look at
Right.
the premise of the movie Cape Fear, it is about Al Pacino's character who becomes obsessed with a 14-year-old girl and her mother. Do you see like now where the connection's starting to roll in a little bit?
Robert De Niro.
Yes, Robert De Niro.
Did I say Al Pacino? I always mix
Yes,
them
it's
up.
okay.
Oh, sorry guys. Robert De Niro, Christine. I just misquoted.
So, what is the name of the book that what's the title of the book that she bought?
Death of Innocence by Jon and Patsy Ramsey.
Uh, so some unknown person owned the book, hand wrote a quote from a movie,
Yes.
and then that got kind of in resold,
Yes, Sharon, she got it as a gift.
and it was and it, they someone bought it on eBay. Is that how you said it was?
Yes.
Okay. So is the handwriting of the quote significant?
Um, I think the quote itself is significant.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too.
considering the fact that the handwriting in the ransom note is already proven to be disguised handwriting. I can't, I'm definitely not a handwriting expert, so, but I was able to find two similarities myself. One being the P in the ransom note and the P that's written in my book.
So
So,
Both
Chris,
are,
you think whoever owned the book and wrote that movie quote was the person who wrote the ransom note?
yes, yes.
Wow.
And until Boulder Police or the FBI tell me otherwise, I will continue to believe that.
I believe her too.
That's crazy.
Haley, you got any questions?
Me?
Yeah, I have a request from you to come up into the box.
I'm
Oh
trying
no, I
to.
just wanted to be in your box.
You just wanted to
I
be on
love
top
it.
of me.
Uh,
But okay, so my critical thinking
I know, right,
skills,
Sharon? It's amazing. Yep, absolutely.
like I try to think common sense, okay?
right.
So if I did something to this child and wrote a ransom note, how did my book end up on eBay? Like if
Um,
you're obsessed with someone, you
well, it
know?
wasn't their book. It was written by Jon and Patsy Ramsey, and I'm sure it was their book when they owned it. But I think that they wanted to take credit for their work in some sort of way, and they're not going to sign with their actual name because then that would give away who they are. So, what would they sign as? They
Right.
would sign as what they were known for, and what they were mostly known for in that ransom note was those, crime thriller movie quotes.
Was the book written after or before John Bonet passed away?
It was
After,
written
Christine,
after.
after.
Okay, that's what I thought.
After, honey. Yeah. It's not it was about, I haven't read the book, but I believe it's about their story and what they
Yes.
went through with you know what, Curious, you could probably speak to what you read, so I'll let you do it.
I didn't even finish the book. That's the sad part about it because,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
once I like I said, on November 17th, 8 days after I received the book. So I had read 8 days worth. And considering I have a life, I can't read all day. So once I figured out that there were crime thrillers in the movie, crime thriller movie quotes in the ransom note, and I
Mm-hmm.
connected it with the quote in the book that I own. After that, it was a chase, so I was just completely disgusted by the book, and I didn't like holding it. I didn't like touching it. It just felt awful and disgusting and disturbing. So
It would freak
I
me out too.
yeah, it just feels like it takes a lot from you. So, I didn't read it anymore.
Did did the Boulder PD ask for a sample of your DNA?
Why would they? Why would they need my DNA?
Well, say they wanted to test the pages for DNA and they wanted to exclude your DNA from whatever they found on it.
I would imagine that they would
Hey,
find
Kathleen, thank
plenty
you.
of amounts of DNA on that book. Like I said, it had a Goodwill sticker on it, which you may not have heard me because you didn't hear the beginning, but it had a Goodwill sticker on it, and it was ordered from a secondhand seller on eBay. So we will never be able to know who all's or how many hands it had been in before
Christine,
mine.
I want you to think about this. This is what Mr. Breaking News comments. While writing in a book that's connected to her, it's like putting their stamp on a trophy, sort of. Aw,
Yes,
thank you, Ramsey.
yes, yes. That's perfect. That is exactly.
Think
That
about
is.
Rex and all those. Think about the Long Island cereal Unalive, all right, that we deal with here. Think about all his little trophies. Why wouldn't that be a trophy? And it
Right,
just
but
wound
We
up.
already know they took items out of the home, and it's speculated that they took those items out of the home as a trophy.
who's they? The unaliver?
The unaliver, yes.
But okay, so I get what you're saying, but for this book to have ended up at Goodwill or eBay, to me, that means that the person might have passed away.
You could very well be right. We don't know.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
why would you have this trophy and just donate it to Goodwill?
I thought of that as well, but I hadn't made a video about it. But the thought did cross my mind that, a family member was going through their things. And I just wondered, what if that book had been with the items that were missing from John Benet's house, and they didn't put two and two together and just tossed them away.
That's
Oh,
right.
Iceman, you want to come up? Okay.
Hmm. What is that? Someone in the car?
Hi, Iceman. Did you have a question for Curious? Can you hear me? Mistake, sorry. Okay, I'll let you down, hon. Not a problem. Okay. I mean, this is fascinating to me. That's why I needed to have you in a separate live with just you, because this is fascinating to me. I feel like you stumbled on something so big, and I'm worried because the Boulder Police Department has screwed this up. Oh, it's okay, Iceman, no problem. Um, because the Boulder Police Department has screwed this up from day one. I really hope that they took the information that you're giving them and are doing something with it.
I hope so too, but we can only hope that because they're not going to communicate with me to confirm. Um, as I said, I'm not really anybody of importance, so they're
Well,
not
Okay.
you're
entitled
important
to
to
as
me
well.
now. You're amazing.
I
The
wish.
only thing, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only thing that I can say is I do not know who it is. I will probably never know who it is until it's confirmed by DNA. But when I watched the movies and you know, I came up with my own assumption from the pattern of movies and from watching most of the movies that this was a form of art to them. So they can't sign their name to it because that would give away all of the best parts of it, I guess you could say. But they would sign in some form to themselves, and that would be the crime thriller movies. But they thought of this as art. They planned this out for quite a while. They were doing their own investigations of, what inspired them, what to take from things that they could use in their art. And that's how we get all these theories and all this speculation, and it'll keep going in circles and circles.
Now, okay, you bring up a good
Exactly,
point.
Mr. Breaking News. I hear you. Go
And
ahead, Christine. Sorry, you cut out a little bit. I didn't realize you were trying to talk.
that's
Sorry.
okay. You bring up a good point. And the thing about the ransom note, a couple of months ago, and Jojo first started talking about this, I did some research and I found the note and I read it and I saw the documentary. And what I kept thinking is when you are committing a crime of passion, you're not really thinking straight. And to sit down and to write a note like that, like, do you think this note was written ahead of time or written that day or that moment of the unaliving?
You mean the actual ransom note?
Yeah.
I think that it had been
It's a good question.
practiced before. Because they would have had to remember every detail that they're going to want to put in that note.
No, it
So I
doesn't,
believe
Iceman.
that
You're
they
right.
would have had to
Hey,
practice or
Dr.
at least go over it in their own mind, what they were going to write. But I think that they ultimately did not write the actual ransom note until they were in the house.
And if you think about it, let's look at Lou Smith's intruder theory, right? Somebody was able to, there was a broken window in the basement and somebody was able to shimmy in there, and then we saw
I
him
hate to
do.
interrupt you, but I want to. Iceman said the note just makes no sense at all. If you watch the movies, the note makes sense. That's what I can tell you. People had already speculated the movie Seven, had already brought up the movie Seven from the ransom note and from other things around the case. These were movies that I found that I didn't find, but other people had speculated before me or confirmed before me. The movie Seven, all these other movies that were confirmed in the ransom note, they will make the ransom note make sense.
And how does it make sense? The fact that it was long?
Well, it was long because to them they had a lot of things they wanted to include. They didn't want to leave out any of the things that inspired them. They wanted to make sure every detail of that was in there. And so that's where you go to the movies. You watch the movies. She was not, I don't believe from the movies that they were ever going to kidnap her. If you watch the movie Seven, I think that they originally, and there is evidence that Jon Benet at some point was in the suitcase from what I've read. I think that they had originally planned to put her in the suitcase. They tell you in the ransom note to find an adequate sized attache. And I think they were referencing to the suitcase. And I
I
think they
did.
originally had planned to put her in there, and maybe she wouldn't fit or whatever. For whatever reason, they had to abandon that suitcase, and they had to find somewhere else to put her, to hide her. And that would have been the wine cellar room.
When you say they, do you mean singular they or plural they?
Truthfully, I do not know. I don't know if I speculate that there was more than one person. I speculate that Michael Helgoth had some involvement
Hey, Reba.
and that he was just used as a
Hi.
cover up. But I don't think he necessarily worked alone. I think he may have used, you know, homeless people or people in need. Or who even knows? John Mark Card could have, for all I know, he could know something. I don't know who. So as for now, I'm just going to say they or them or he. Um,
Okay.
Very interesting. Okay, let's get to the chat. I never thought of that. Wow. Okay, let's see. Interesting. There's something that he said. Iceman. It makes no sense because she's in the basement. She was not kidnapped. Well, I think you pretty much just explained that, Curious.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, I'm blown away by that analogy. Yeah, me too. That's why I really wanted her to come on alive and just dedicate it to Curiously Curious because she is doing, I would have to say, more work than I've ever seen the police do, with the exception of Lou.
So
I don't
curious.
know about that.
Curious. I have a question because I'm curious too. Is when you watch the interviews with the parents, what does your gut say?
That they didn't have anything to do with it and they don't know. I mean, truthfully, I don't think that they know, but I think that they were trying their best. And we cannot say, well, if I was in their shoes, I would do this. You have no idea. No one knows how they're going to react to trauma. Unfortunately, otherwise we wouldn't have crimes. You may, you know, you can you look at someone and say, well, why did you let them unalive you? I
No,
mean,
I
come
get.
on, like you know what I'm saying? Like you don't
No, I
know. You've
totally
not been
do.
in the shoes.
I
You don't know
totally.
how you would react. So I think that myself, I believe that they are innocent and they don't have any information other than what they've already given to us.
I totally agree, and I felt the same way when I watched the interviews. And also, just as a side note, I had gotten I was in a tornado a couple years ago, and I had a crazy reaction. And everyone's like, I would have done this, I would have done that. And I'm like, you don't know how you would react
Yes.
until it happens to you, and you don't think rationally. Like
Yes,
No.
when
Iceman,
fear
absolutely.
takes over, it's like either
Thank
that
you,
whole fight or
Steve.
flight thing, and everybody reacts differently to things. And,
Right.
and people are just so high and mighty. They're like, I would have done this, I would have done that, like in
And
things.
the biggest part of accusing the parents of doing this is that you're saying that, whether it be that John did it or Patsy did it or Burke did it. You're concluding that the family had involvement and helped each
Hey,
other cover it up.
Christy.
And what you're trying to say is that they were able to write out a 3-page ransom note where they give all these details from crime thriller movies or all these quotes from crime thriller movies in the midst of panic and trauma. That makes absolutely no sense. That would have
Agreed.
took more than a night to do, for one. For two, like I said, they're just not going to be able to come up with that much stuff in the middle of panic and fear and chaos. They're going to be like, oh my god, how do we cover this up? And God only knows what they would come up with, but I'd say that it would probably be pretty lousy and lead exactly, to them knowing and confirming and it being done and over with. But that's not the case. This is still going on and on and on.
It's funny when about 10 years or so ago, um my building was on fire, and Jojo's husband actually was there that day. But when I realized my building was on fire, I was driving to the building, and I remember my son started asking me questions, and I was in such a panic. I said to him, I go, please just stop talking to me. Like, my brain cannot process information right now. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I was just driving and trying to stay on the road while watching a plume of smoke in the next town, knowing that was my building, and not knowing if I was going to come home to ash. And it was like, you literally, I couldn't, like, I can't even believe that I drove there in one piece. So I could only imagine what a parent would feel knowing their child was missing, and you're in that panic. There's no way they could
Thank you.
have written a coherent note. I
Right.
mean, for what, I mean, that's debatable, but it's a long note that wasn't like crazy. I don't think that's humanly possible.
I don't
Now,
either.
I have a curiously, it's such a wide a range of movies that you had mentioned that are connected to this, like Seven and Ruthless People and Ricochet and Cape Fear. Do you,
Very
your,
true.
in your opinion, do you think that, you know, is there a chronological order you would watch those movies?
I wrote all of them down and I tried to see if there was some sort of order or something hidden amongst them. And I couldn't find anything. However, I'm not an expert in cryptography or anything of those sorts. But I did find that, I don't think that there's
Yes,
an order.
Sarah, me too.
I think that you should just watch them however, um, whatever order you see fit, because I didn't watch them in any specific order. But then when you're done watching all of them, watch The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Don't leave that one out. Make sure you
Okay.
include that one with the others.
Curious, John Lynn is saying he's curious about the Ruthless People connection. Do you remember what line they used from that movie? I can't
Um,
remember.
I do not remember exactly which lines there. I think one of them was to be well rested through the payphone. Other people had already confirmed Ruthless People. I did not confirm these movies. The only movie that I'm confirming is Cape Fear. That's it. But other people already, they lay out proof of each movie. You could find that almost anywhere. Just Google it.
You
And I
know,
believe you have a list on your page as well, don't you?
Yes, I have all kinds of them.
Sarah,
They're all on my
follow
page.
Curiously Curious and take a look at her stuff because I know I saw that on her page. She has amazing content on there. She's got stuff I haven't seen, like letters and stuff that, she got through Web Sleuth. So really, really interesting stuff. And she's doing amazing work and she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart and for justice. That's why I needed to dedicate a live to her because that's what I'm about. So
I was just thinking, have you ever tried AI or chat GBT, whatever it's
Yes.
called,
Yes.
and said like, what does this and that, what does the note in this movie have in common? Did anything come up?
Yes. Oh, yes. Plenty, plenty, plenty. There's so much to go over with Chat GPT. I use it quite frequently. There is some things that I found that they're not super reliable for. So you can't hold everything to high standards when you use Chat GPT. But it has been very helpful. And I've used it quite a bit.
Well, I think you're really, like Joe said, I mean, your critical thinking skills are amazing and you're leaving, no
no problem.
stone unturned here. I mean, I don't know what you do for a living, but you should be working investigative something.
Listen, when a Boulder PD said, feel free to keep looking into it, I immediately said, I'm officially hired by Boulder PD. They just don't know. Um,
We there was a about 5 years ago or so, I don't remember exactly when, my son was actually a victim of a crime from someone who lived on our street.
hmm
And so I asked my son a bunch of details, and then we went online, and then we got all the information on the guy. So I went to the police and I said, "This is his name. This is his address. Blah blah blah." And the
yes.
police officer goes, "Do you want a job?" And I was like,
Yes. Sometimes
"Yeah,
you have to do the work yourself.
yeah."
And that's what I was worried about too. I was like, this sounds crazy. No one is going to take this seriously. And I even told that police officer that. His name was Officer Kenny Becks. He called me while I was in Taco Bell drive-through. Um, but I told him,
Gotcha,
you know,
Christy. Thanks for stopping in, honey.
I reported it originally on November 17th, and I had not heard anything back except for an automated email, and I was losing my mind. I was like, I cannot just sit on this. This is not nothing to me. This should be taken seriously. If me and no one can see this and be absolutely disturbed and disgusted by it, obviously somebody else should be able to see it. So I couldn't sit and wait. I kept calling the tip lines and finally got through to Metro Crime Stoppers, and they were like, we sent your information to Boulder. They should be calling you. And he called me, and I told him I had just found out, like that day, that a new thing was coming on Netflix and that there was Crime Junkies podcast coming out. And I was like, I was so scared that it was going to be swept under the rug as this is some crazy person coming forth with something. And he was like, no, I don't think that. And he said, this could be the break in the case. You never know.
Wow.
Lynn, John, we never forget the victims, and she has not been forgotten. And there's been a lot of recent um, attention drawn back to this case due to the whole, advances in DNA technology. So her dad's advocating really hard for that. And then Kim asks a question, and I'm not really sure what she means. You might have to clarify this for me, Kim. Why did the parents not seem to want to go look for an intruder or look for their daughter? I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like rather than call the police, they should have just started looking around the house? I'm not really sure. You guys have any idea what she means by that? Because I'm a little confused. Maybe she can clarify in the chat for us.
I think
Yeah,
they
but
did try their best.
that's kind of like what Curious was saying earlier. It's like when you're questioning like responses from people, that just doesn't automatically mean someone's guilty of something.
I would have been running out on the streets, etc., looking for anything. You know what, Kim? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I think what you got to remember is prior to them calling the police, Patsy finds this 3-page ransom note, reads it, and she's like, oh my God, because she thinks her daughter's been kidnapped. So for them to start looking for an intruder right away, I was always under the impression, given what I saw of Patsy Ramsey over the years, and Curious, Christine, Stephen, you guys can interrupt and tell me if you think I'm wrong. She was so panicked that her first move, knowing that she thought her daughter was kidnapped, was to call 911.
Right.
Yes.
I
I
think
think she
that's
had looked at
reasonable.
John and John said call 911 or something to that effect, and that's what
Right,
they
right.
did.
Yes. Yes.
That's
What
reasonable to me.
what if someone was in their house? You're absolutely right, Kim, and that is where Detective Lou Smith really went with the intruder theory. And he was trying to bring that theory forth for years, and he was down to 700 names when he passed away, and he passed the work on to his children, which I believe Curious did try and reach out and didn't get very far with them at this point. So
They
I have
said that
a
it was intriguing, but that, they trusted in Lou Smith's investigative work, and they didn't see a reason to keep investigating it, that they were just trying to collect DNA from the list that Lou Smith had given them.
okay. And their other child was in his room alone. Yes, as far as we know. I know there's been some question about her brother Burke's involvement. Apparently, there's been stories that he was jealous of Joan Benet. He would smack her or push her or was a little aggressive with her, and that led to them looking at him at some point, but nothing was ever proven, and his DNA was not found at the scene.
Right.
Curious. I have a question for you. How much was the ransom note for?
I know, Iceman, me neither.
Um, it was $118,000, which people speculate that came from John Ramsey's bonus that he had
Mm-hmm.
received in January of 1996, which is 11, almost a whole
A lot of
year
people did Iceman, yeah.
before that.
It's such an odd number, 118,000. Now, have they looked into any of the father's co-workers, maybe?
Yeah, there was a coworker,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, that said that John Ramsey owed him that exact amount. Now, I don't recall very many details of that. Like I said, there's still a lot that I need to investigate myself. There's still a lot of information I need to go over. So I may not, know everything right off the bat. But if I'm not, I could be wrong, but I think that they did DNA test him or look into him or something to that effect. Um, I didn't find him interesting yet, but, maybe I need to look into him again.
I keep thinking, what if they screwed up the testing of the DNA and the sample they have is not the right sample? Because if they're testing all these people and they go, it's not that person, it's not that person, for all we know, the DNA they got was from a police officer at the crime scene. They botched so much. I mean, how
Who's
do
to
we even
say
know
a
that?
police officer wasn't involved? We don't know that for sure. Because if you take a look at this case, it does seem awful fishy when you come to Boulder Police. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of having anything to do with it,
No,
but
no.
there is speculation out there that there could have been some involvement from inside of the police force, or the police department.
But I wonder if the like the DNA itself,
Right.
because there's a way. I've done a little genealogy stuff myself, and I know that when when you have DNA, it'll tell you certain like it'll say what they think your eye color is.
Hey,
It'll say if
buffering.
you're, uh, male or female. It'll say ethnicities. It'll say probably what your skin color is. It'll say if you have a genetic disorder. There's all these different information you can get from DNA, not just who it is, but all these characteristics of the person. So I just wonder if they've really analyzed that DNA and you know what I mean? And if it was it showed that, say for example, that DNA sample was a woman, they'd be like, oh, the police screwed it up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't trust that sample. I just feel how do we know that and that's what I was saying. It's not that the DNA is a cop and the cop did it. I'm saying maybe it was the cop who scraped the sample and put it in a bag, that it's really DNA from their skin. You know what I mean? They just
Unfortunately,
botched.
I do not have enough information on the DNA to really talk about the DNA in depth. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would comment on it, but I don't have enough information or enough knowledge on the subject, so I don't really like getting too far into it. Um, but personally, I don't think that they would be taking it as seriously as they are if it wasn't significant. And I have to trust that they have done their job significantly well. And I don't think Lou Smith would have ran with it if it wasn't significant with his experience and expertise. So I have to trust that everyone else before me did their job to the best of their abilities and hope that, it could, in the end, bring forth whoever did do this.
I don't know. I just, we're dealing with the Long Island unaliver here, and they literally, I think someone mentioned it,
Thank you, Randy.
they got his DNA off of, his pizza crust. And, but it's I've just become so cynical about everything now. I just don't trust some of, Joanne and I, we've met some of the people involved in this investigation, and it's nothing personal, but just in
Hey,
general.
beautiful.
just the whole system of like doing these things on the up and up and getting the right samples and, doing everything by the book. There's so much human error in everything. It's,
I,
it's frustrating.
Yeah, I think
curiously,
there isn't there. Yeah,
I have two questions that are kind of gonna go hand in hand here. The clothing that John Benet was wearing, they obviously didn't find any. Did they find DNA on the clothing?
touch DNA.
Okay. Now here's gonna come to my second question, which is gonna be connected to this. When they found her, was there any sign that she was? I don't know how I could say this without getting in trouble. Uh,
SA.
Essay.
yes, essayed.
You can say essayed.
Yes, yes, she had been SA'd. Um, and here's the thing about that.
Yes,
Um,
Lynn, I agree. The FBI should have gotten involved. I
there was a
totally agree.
movie. Yeah, there was a movie that was speculated before me, not confirmed. So I'm gonna throw that out there. It's not been confirmed, only speculated around, and I happened to find whoever speculated it. Um, they speculated the movie The Silence of the Lambs. In the movie The Silence of the Lambs, I have not watched it yet. It is on my list to watch.
It's a really good
Um,
movie.
Good
I've
luck.
never seen it, so if you have any details, I'd love to hear them.
Be
I
prepared to be
just
scared.
recently I just recently found this out. I had already looked and talked about it a little bit, because like I said, I found this movie like a while ago where it was speculated around, but I didn't dive into it because it was not confirmed. Um, but in the movie, I saw a scene where he asks about Miss West Virginia, and she tells him, whatever about Miss West Virginia, and then he asks what was inserted, and she replies, a moth, and he pretty much tells her that there's a reason, like, if you can help me with this portion, there was some type of meaning to the moth being inserted, right?
Yeah, the
I was,
moth. You know how a moth starts out, right?
uh,
It's a
no, just go ahead and like dumb it down a little bit
Hey,
for
Keith,
me.
welcome.
so a moth starts out as a worm, which
Yeah.
builds its own cocoon, and then when the time is ready, that cocoon opens and the moth flies out.
Okay. So inserted into Jon Benet, there was a paintbrush. And I had already found that the movies around this case, led me to believe that this was a form of art to them. So, and the paintbrush confirmed that to me when I looked at what little bit I did of The Silence of the Lambs.
That makes sense.
And I will tell you that there is a podcast that I had listened to called The Consult. And in that podcast, they bring up the fact that usually when somebody is like regretful or like showing some type of like they felt bad. I can't remember how exactly they worded it. They're professionals. I'm not. Um, but they'll cover up the victim. And they pointed out that Jon Benet hadn't been fully covered, that she had only been covered from the waist down. And they said that that would mean that they were trying to cover up the essay that had been done to Jon Benet. Now, I myself, my opinion, which is not professional opinion, you can put it in the garbage if you want to, but I speculate that they were trying to cover up the essay because I don't think that they view themselves as what they are, a schmedo, whatever. I think that they was doing it as their form of art, and so they didn't put themselves in the category of being a schmedophile. So that's my theory, but again, I'm not a professional. And I know that
Exactly.
Lou Smith thought that this person had previously SA or would have SA charges, and I'm not saying that they don't. They may have, but I don't think they personally see themselves that way. But what one of them would? You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to admit that they're a bad guy. So
Now, when I was watching Vinnie Politan, oh my gosh, he had the man on who has been talking to Gary Oliva for years.
Mhm.
And I can't remember the man's name, John something. It's like a classmate or something.
Yeah.
And he stated that Gary Oliva was very into those kinds of movies. And that was like his thing. He'd always have like movie quotes and things like that. So that was something that I found interesting. Did you hear
Yeah,
that
I think
curiously?
I did hear that and see that, but I just if his DNA didn't match, and again, like I said, I have to trust that they did their job.
Yep.
Um, then he doesn't fit
That's
for
yeah.
me. He may have helped. He may have helped. Um, and then now Jameson, the web sleuth that has been on this case since the beginning, there is there's two poems around this case. One is called The Manchurian Doll, and one is called Zack the Great Pretender. Now Jameson 245 says those poems carry no significance. They should just be thrown out. And here's what I have to say about that. Because right after she said that, she brought up the Zell brothers. The Zell brothers were literally investigating these poems. And when Lou Smith found out about the poems, the Zell brothers said that he was dying to get his hands on them. He needed to see them. He, they knew that they carried some sort of significance. And in those poems, you know what? Let me just bring it up here. But in the poems, they talk about three people. They bring up three people, and the Zell brothers, like I said, they dove into this poem. So obviously they knew it carried some significance, regardless of whether or not women wrote it. But okay, in the Zack the Great Pretender, it starts out, and I may mispronounce this because I have a bad habit of doing that.
It's okay.
I'm not sure if I can say one of these words, but in his very confident, uh, in his cocky revere, I think I pronounced that right. The truth
Okay.
the three would carry to the steps of the authority. The truth the three would carry to the steps of the authority. So they thought that there was possibly other people involved, and so that leads me to think that yeah, that he probably did have help in some sort of way.
Got you. Well, this has been wow. All I could say is wow. Are there any other questions? Curiously, like before I end this, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on that you feel is really important for people to know?
The only thing that I can tell you is if you're interested in looking into it, do the work. Keep looking. I have to keep looking. Um, and what Jameson said, which was read the court text from Wolf versus Ramsey.
Hmm.
I've looked at more than just the book. I have
Yes,
read
yes,
and
Kayla.
watched
You really
everything I
need
can
to
find.
check out her page, hon. You'll see all the work that's been done. I mean, I had to have her on here to have her own live because she came into my Joan Benet's live. She had so much information, and I'm like, I need you to come back. So, as you move forward, I don't know where we're going to be next week. But I do have my YouTube channel and I will keep in touch with you, Curiously Curious, because if we're not doing it on here, we're going over there and I would love to have you on there as well.
Yeah, whenever.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions before we end this tonight? All right, guys. Well, listen, we've been on an hour and a half. It has been such a pleasure. I'm going to ask everybody for the next minute if they could do me a favor and just tap that screen. Let's try and get me up to 40,000 before I end. But Lee, Christine, Curious, I will drop you guys down so you don't lose your gifts.
Thank
I don't
you.
even know anything about gifts, but thank you, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
you
you
got some.
for letting me on here.
Are you kidding? It is my pleasure. I think you are a very, very smart person, and I look forward to working with you more.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bobby, I'm at Talking with JoJo. If you go into my profile, you will find my YouTube handle in there. Just go over there, give me a subscribe. I do have enough followers to go live on there. So if TikTok is banned as of next week, that's where you're all going to be able to find me. So I will be posting more videos soon with the other platforms I'm going to be on. But for right now, I'm going to say YouTube is probably going to be the main one, along with my channel on Facebook. So, oh, and Instagram. So we'll be doing all three of them. Oh, no problem, Bobby. Thank you so much for coming in. And again, at Talking with JoJo, I pride myself on bringing you guys the news when I see it. So this was an amazing live. Thank you all so very much, and have a great evening. I'll be back. Bye, everybody.